Cliff Albright is the co-founder and executive director of Black Voters Matter, joining us now from Atlanta. Cliff, on this show, we have been yelling and screaming this for a very long time. And we have been trying to connect the dots to get people to understand that when you lose political power, you're losing economic power. I was having a conversation today with a book that I'm working on with the writer. And I was saying what people don't understand is that, one, when Republicans typically get in, they believe in smaller government. What then happens is when they get control, they say, let's wipe out government jobs. African Americans, 1 in 5 on the federal level. We also over-index state government, county government, city hall, school district. So if Republicans expand power, you have job losses, public sector. That impacts folks who own homes. That impacts spending. That impacts supporting of nonprofits. That impacts tithing at church. That impacts everything, because we were shut out of corporate America for so long that the places where you typically going to find African Americans making $75,000 or $100,000 are going to be in government. People really do not understand how this one decision is going to have not a ripple effect, a tsunami effect on Black America.
Yeah, Roland, I mean, you're exactly right about that. You know, we talked about the impact of what would happen at the congressional level, right? If the Calais case strikes down Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, basically gutting whatever's left of the Voting Rights Act. And you've made the point that this report talks about the impact at the state level, 191 seats that could be wiped out, almost overnight, right? In these 10 southern states. And as you've just been saying, and the point that I always make is, no matter what your issue is, no matter what it is that you're passionate about, you can't get action on on affordable housing, on education for our children, on living wage, on healthcare. Just tell me whatever your issue is, whatever it is. You can't get action on it if we don't have representation, not just at Congress, but as you said, in the state legislatures, on the county commissions, on Board of Educations, et cetera.
Cliff, it's not just representation. And see, this is where all of these simple Simons drive me crazy. Man, all you do on your show is shield for the Democrats. All you do on your show is trying to make us vote Democrat. Okay, fine. And this is what I always say in response. Please show me the issues that you want addressed. And please show me, when I step back and I look at Democrat, your average Democrat candidate, and your average Republican candidate, which one of those two supports that issue?
Sure.
I dare say that if I came up with 10, the generic Democratic candidate is probably going to support minimum 7 of my 10, likely 9 of my 10, and the Republican candidate at best is going to be 2 out of 10 or 1 out of 10. So when these yahoos start talking about, oh, you try to force us to vote Democrat, no. What I keep saying is that if we do vote here, we have to make them deliver. But the guaranteed way not to get, again, Democrat, my agenda, Republicans, the guaranteed way not to get my agenda is not to vote here or here, to sit out, and you're guaranteed never to have your issues addressed.
Yeah, I mean, that's the bottom line. We can't get our issues addressed if we are gerrymandered into districts where there's no way for us to get a candidate of our choice. It's not even necessarily even about getting a Black candidate, right? Because the impact of this isn't just that Black folks won't get elected to these positions, although that's true. But even if you're okay, well, maybe I can get me somebody who's kind of okay on the issues, who's progressive. They're not Black, but they're okay. No, we would be gerrymandered into districts where we would be so diluted that we simply would not have the power to get any candidate of our choice, meaning any candidate who moves on the issues that we're trying to get movement
and
on.
the Republicans ain't even going to meet with us. They ain't, see, that's what I keep trying to explain to people. They ain't even going to meet with you. And see, Cliff, we keep trying to warn people. This is how deep this is. Go to my iPad, Elise. Trump's White House is warning universities that if a student even writes an essay mentioning DEI, that's unlawful. What?
Right.
This is political power. So because they control the White House and the Department of Justice and the Department of Education, their whole deal is we're going to impact everything. College admissions. We're studying data. We're impacting, look, the disparate impact ruling that they made a couple of weeks ago we discussed on this show. They are using political power to drive an agenda that's impacting universities, impacting corporate America, impacting law firms, impacting nonprofits, the entire America infrastructure. AT&T said we're getting rid of our DEI initiatives because the FCC will not approve an acquisition unless we do it. That's political power impacting economics.
Right. And it's very similar. It's very reminiscent. And we've made this analogy before. I know you've talked about it. You know, when we talk about Reconstruction and post-Reconstruction,
yes,
talk about the court that ended a lot of these, because this is not new. We had voting rights. We had Black members in Congress. We had Black senators. We had Hiram Rebels. We had others, right? And all of that was undone. And not just the elected officials and the voting rights, but everything by the Redemption Court that followed Reconstruction, that did a series of cases, not just one, just like with this case.
Yep.
And just like with this court, it's not just one case. It's a series of cases, just like that Redemption Court, which ultimately led to what? Plessy versus Ferguson.
And before that, for people who do not understand, and this is why I keep trying to explain to people that this is a war that we are in. Go to my iPad. 1875, the Civil Rights Act of 1875 was passed. The Redemption Court Cliff is talking about ruled this to be unconstitutional. There were hundreds of bills that were offered, civil rights bills, between 1875 and 1957. They were all rejected. The other day, I listened to I picked up Cairo's book, Master of the Senate on the LBJ, and they talked about the speech that Senator Hubert Humphrey, this rousing speech that he gave in 1948 at the Democratic National Convention for them to add civil rights to their plank. Not a single bill. So even the 57 bill was massively watered down. But the 1957 Civil Rights Act, which rarely gets talked about because, frankly, it did nothing, that was the first civil rights bill that was passed since the one in 1875. So what people need to understand, do the math. What we are chancing here is with this Cali decision, this on the federal level, the state level, we may be seeing the wiping out of civil rights for 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years because they will control the courts and the legislature / Congress.
That's right. And we need to make it clear, like, we got to sound that alarm. I was speaking in a panel a couple of weeks ago where I said, look, you know, we don't try to motivate through fear, right? Because, you know, us at Black Voters Matter, we believe in love and joy and culture and power, right? And so I said, you know, we don't usually like to use fear, but I need you to be a little afraid right now. Like, I need you to have a little sense of urgency. I need you to have a sense of this history that we're looking at,
yes,
that we went through once, but we're not trying to go through again. And so I need you to feel that, but we don't need to sit in that fear, right? We need to understand the urgency, but then we need to snap out of that moment and get to work. And there are things that we can do to push back against this court by keeping this issue alive. There are things that we can do to push back and fight for federal legislation. Even if we don't have the numbers right now, we still need to push for the federal legislation that we were trying to get a couple of years ago, right? That battle's not over. We need to push for state level voting rights, even in some of these states that are hostile right now.
Yes.
We still need to organize and push for those things. That doggone, if they can try to get Obamacare overturned 60 times when they knew doggone well they didn't have the votes, then we can still push our agenda and keep our issues on the table, because you can't you can't get the harvest later on if you ain't plant the seeds today. And so we need to be doing this work. We need to be organizing for this legislation. We need to be doing rallies. We got MLK Day coming up next month. We need to be using that holiday to commemorate, yes, but to also push for action on these issues that we're talking about. And we got options that we can do. Get connected to an organization, even if it's not Black Voters Matter. Get connected to Fair Fight Action. Get connected to Southern Poverty Law Center. Support LDF that has been arguing many of these cases and doing an amazing job. Get with these organizations, because we can win. We can keep this history from repeating itself, but we got to understand that it's possible for this history to repeat itself. We can't have this notion, this American exceptionalism that, oh, we can't go backwards, or this notion that, oh, we've been here before and therefore, we'll just be okay automatic. No, it'll be okay, but we got to push and we got to fight for it to be okay. And if we do that, if we believe in our power, then ultimately we will win. But I'm not trying to paint a rosy picture about the nature of the opposition and the nature of the threat that we're up against. This is as serious as it gets, and we need everybody to be very much awake about that.
So I want to freeze that there, because I understand the point, and I hear people say, man, y'all can't be coming here, y'all trying to scare us with all these scare tactics to get us to vote Democrat. Do you know what the right did? The right used scare tactics to say, if we don't do this, the left, the liberals, the progressives, they gonna control this. They gonna run this. That's what they did. And so what we're doing, we ain't scaring nobody, but we just trying to tell y'all not what we think is going to happen. We're telling y'all what is going to happen. I mean, I have been sitting with this writer for a week. And Cliff, it has been so enlightening, but also frustrating to hear me recite these things and me talking about this book, White Fear, and seeing literally every single thing I said was going to happen actually happen.
Yeah.
And then I'm talking to certain Black folks, and it's kind of like, oh, yeah, man, I know you said that. I'm like, y'all don't see what the hell's going on? Y'all don't see what's happening? I go back to, y'all, this is real. They are actually challenging universities over the issue of DEI in tests. I'm sorry, in essays. They are driving everything. They are challenging everything. And I think a bunch of us, and because you mentioned organizations, this is what I need Black organizations to recognize. And Cliff, I ain't got no problem saying it. We've had a lot of Black organizations that have been stuck in the mud for more than a year. They were not active after Vice President Kamala Harris lost. Black people were saying, hey, where are we going? What are we doing? There are a lot of Black organizations that are sitting in silos, only caring about their business. And what I keep saying is, no, every Black organization must be in a warfare state of mind, because with him sitting in the Oval Office for the next 3 years, we are in the middle of a war. This is the first year of a battlefront, and it's going to be a steady, nasty, bitter, cold, rough battle. And when this decision comes down, and based upon their questioning, we know how they're going to roll. Folk have no idea. This generation has no idea what it's going to look like the next day.
Right. That's right. And at the end of the day, look, people talking about this country and a slide into authoritarianism and a slide into fascism. And there's two things that I know for sure. One, it ain't a slide. We already there, right? I mean, in many ways, domestically and internationally. Let's just remember that these people are blowing up boats in the middle of the Caribbean, right? And so
seizing a Venezuelan oil tanker and said, "We gonna keep the oil. Damn y'all, we gonna keep the oil."
Right. Right. And so, if this was any other country doing this, we'd be very clear about what it is. We'd be very clear about like what the actions like that are, right? That's just, seawater piracy, right? We'd be very clear about what's going on in this country in terms of ethnic cleansing. We would call it what it is. But because it's America, because we got these notions of like things that simply could not happen here, people still aren't really understanding. And so, so one, I know that it's not a slide, we're already there. But two, this is what I know. If you're trying to figure out how to get out of authoritarian and fascism, you better ask the folks who know it best in this country. Because this ain't the first time, right? We just talked about the history of we've been living through authoritarianism and fascism ever since we got here.
Yeah.
Right? And so we are going to be in the middle. And I know there are folks that say, "Oh, we're going to wait for other folks to do X, Y, Z and all that stuff." And yeah, those folks need to, we need more folks to be involved. But be clear that there's no battle against American fascism and authoritarianism that can happen that is not rooted in our experience and fighting against it. And at the end of the day, we got us.
Yeah. And let me tell you something, Cliff. I literally was talking to a sister who was an African immigrant who campaigned aggressively for Trump in 2016 and 2020, 2024. And I said to her, he don't give a shit about y'all. I said, I want to be clear. Now, she wasn't aware, because some other things happened in her life. She wasn't aware of what he said about Somalians. But for everybody to understand, this just came down. They've now added 5 more countries where they're restricting them from coming to the country. Now, you see Afghanistan, Myanmar, Chad, Africa, Republic of Congo, Africa, Equatorial Guinea, Africa, Eritrea, Africa, Haiti, Black, Iran, Libya, Africa, Somalia, Africa, Sudan, Africa, Yemen. Look at this: Burundi, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone, Africa, Togo, Africa, Turkmenistan, and Venezuela. Look at this right here. On Tuesday, they've added Burkina Faso, Africa, Mali, Niger, Africa, South Sudan, Africa, Syria. Look at that. People, South Sudan facing major travel restrictions. They do not want black people, brown people in this country. They want white people.
And not just any old white people, right? They bringing over what? The Afrikaners from South Africa.
The apartheid whites.
That's right. Which, by the way, keeping in mind that's where Elon Musk is from.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. An additional 15 countries are also being added to the list, facing partial restrictions. Angola, Africa, Antigua, that's a black country, Barbuda, Benin, Ivory Coast, Africa, Dominica, Gabon, Africa, Gambia, Malawi, Mauritania, Nigeria, Senegal, Tanzania, Tonga, Zambia, Zimbabwe. This is what they are doing right now.
Yeah. Yep. So reach out if you are watching this. Text us. Text We Matter to 25225. That's We Matter, one word, to 25225. Hook up with us on our social media, Black Voters MTR, Black Voters MTR. But I'll say it again. This ain't about us. It could be another organization. You want to connect with a local organization? Guess what? We got friends and comrades in like 25 states. Reach out to us and we'll put you in touch with a local organization that you can do some stuff with, right? But we got things that we can do, but we got to do it together. right? We can't do this as individuals. We can't even do it as individual
Yep.
organizations. We got to be in coalition with one another. And I'm going to tell you, coalition is hard, y'all.
Yep.
It is hard work to be in coalition, but it is no longer an option. We have got to do this together. And if we do it together, what our history shows is that we will win. But we got to be clear-eyed about the nature of the threat that we are up against.
Based on what you just said, I swear you were listening to my call with this writer. Cliff Albright, I appreciate it, bro. Thanks a lot.
All right, man.
Going to a break. We'll be right back.